He called me difficult, like it was a curse word. All because I asked questions. Because I didn't blindly nod along. One morning, I walked into the office like normal, grabbed my coffee, opened my laptop, ready to dive into Codon by lunch. I was locked out of every system. No warning. Just a cold meeting, a forced NDA shoved across the table, and the kind of fake smile you give someone you're done using. "It's just not working out," he said. Translation: I was too smart to manipulate. This wasn't some ordinary job. I worked for a crypto startup handling sensitive blockchain infrastructure. Think multi-million-dollar transactions, offshore servers, hidden investors, and secrets way more than any intern should know. I wasn't supposed to see what I saw, but I did. And they knew it. After I got fired, I spent 2 days feeling crushed, wondering if I'd really been too outspoken, too opinionated. But then, I started connecting the dots. It's a transaction log that didn't match our ledger. Offshore, IPs rerouting data. Shadow wallets linked to political donors. That's when I realized this wasn't just a tech company. It was a machine hiding something way bigger than anyone realized. I didn't plan to become a whistleblower. I just didn't want to be part of the lie. So I copied one server one they never thought I had access to one, mailed a clean drive to someone who would actually listen. The Department of Justice, my name is still redacted in the reports. But the fallout, that's coming fast. This isn't just my story, it's a warning. About power, silence, and the cost of asking the wrong questions in a world ruled by code and coins. And trust me, the story is just getting started. Because the server I sent, it wasn't even the only one. I started that job thinking it'd be the chance of a lifetime. A rising crypto firm, early equity, and the kind of work that pushed boundaries. My manager, Eric, was sharp, too sharp. The kind of guy who always looked like he was 2 moves ahead. At first, I thought I'd finally found a place where I could grow, where ideas mattered more than politics. But it didn't take long before I noticed things that didn't add up. They kept the dev team split, compartmentalized. One group handled the blockchain ledger, another worked on transaction routing, and a third was told never to ask questions about server logs. It was all brushed off as security protocol, but the secrecy went beyond that. Sometimes files would disappear mid-sprint. We'd get strange patches that weren't in the repo. And then there was the offshore Nodawise, active, always syncing data no one talked about. The few times I brought it up, I got the same answer. You're overthinking. IWASN single quotes. One night, I stayed late. I wanted to see what that server was really doing. When I traced the outbound packets, they pointed to an encrypted wallet linked to a shell company, one not even listed on our books. And it wasn't some harmless overflow account. It was moving crypto in massive chunks, hours before public trades were made. Insider activity, market manipulation, possibly even political funneling. But the kicker? Some of the transfer metadata included initials that matched the board members. That's when I understood why they wanted me gone. I wasn't being difficult. I was a risk. I saved everything I could, encrypted it, hid copies, where even I'd forget. The one I sent to the DOJ was just the start. But now, people are watching me. Unknown numbers. Unmarked vans parked too long outside my building. I don't know who I can trust anymore. And I don't know how far they'll go to protect what I found. For the first few days after sending the drive to the DOJ, everything was quiet. Too quiet. I expected a call, maybe someone showing up to ask questions. Instead, it felt like nothing happened, like the whole thing had vanished into some government void. But then weird things started. My email accounts triggered login alerts from unfamiliar devices. My apartment buzzer would ring at odd hours, but no one was ever there. A white SUV with tinted windows showed up across the street and stayed parked for 3 nights in a row. I started keeping my curtains closed, double-checking locks, barely sleeping at the same time. I noticed something off on the public side of things. The crypto firm's site quietly pulled down its executive bios. Their social pages went dark, but the company's value still climbing. Investors still pouring in money. It was like none of the shady back-end activity ever happened. Worse, like it was all being covered up by people who knew exactly how deep it went. That's when I realized I wasn't just dealing with rogue execs or a sketchy CEO. This thing was layered. I started digging through old server logs I'd saved on an external drive, looking for something I might have missed. And that's when I stumbled across her Sasha. She was a former employee, gone months before I joined. Buried in a folder was a recorded Zoom call where she questioned the exact same offshore wallet I'd flagged. A week later, her account was disabled and she was never mentioned again. I tried finding her online. No LinkedIn, no social media, not even a mention in old employee rosters. It was like she never existed. That discovery changed everything. I wasn't the first to speak up, but maybe I'd be the last if I wasn't careful. And if Sasha had already vanished, then whoever was behind this wasn't just protecting profits, they were erasing people. Now I had to find her, not just to get answers, but to find out what I was really up against. Because the deeper I went, the more I started to believe this wasn't just a company scandal. It was a network. One with ties I hadn't even begun to understand. I finally found a lead. Sasha's name turned up in an old dev forum thread from 2 years ago, just one comment, buried deep under a random username. But the writing style matched her voice from the recorded Zoom call. She mentioned something about crypto laundering wrapped in clean code and hinted she had backed up files before disappearing. The account hadn't been active since. It wasn't much, but it was something. I followed that trail across old Reddit posts, Git commits, even a dormant GitHub repo where she'd pushed an encrypted file labeled core_mirror_snapshot. It was password-locked. I stayed up all night trying every combination I could. Dates, phrases, references from the Zoom call until 1 finally cracked it. Disconnect. 2. Rebuild. Inside were logs, diagrams, and internal messages way worse than anything I'd seen before. Some transactions were rerouted through anonymous wallets tied to known shell companies. But the real twist? Some of those wallets were sending crypto to addresses linked with political campaign funding groups, legally gray, but highly suspicious. This wasn't just insider trading. It looked like money was being cleaned, rerouted, and injected into influence pipelines. I emailed the DOJ again, this time with everything. But within 24 hours, my internet was cut. Not just at home, my phone, my backup hotspot, even the local coffee shop Wi-Fi refused to connect me. I got a letter taped to my door. No stamp, no sender. Inside, a single typed line. "You're chasing ghosts. Let it go." That's when I knew I'd crossed a line. The server I sent wasn't ignored. It was noticed. And whoever was watching wasn't just covering a company, they were protecting something much bigger. Now I was looking over my shoulder. Everywhere, people on the subway looked familiar. Drones passed by my window more than once, and the SUV? It was back. This time, idling with the engine running. I had to decide: go underground and disappear like Sasha, or finish what I started. But either way, I wasn't just in a tech scandal anymore. I was sitting on a crypto conspiracy that could burn careers, collapse funding networks, maybe even take down an entire layer of digital finance. And they knew I wasn't letting it go. That night, I packed a bag and left my apartment without turning on any lights. I took back alleys, used cash for the train, and headed to cities over to crash at a friend's place who didn't ask questions. I thought I could stay low for a few days, get my head straight. But the next morning, I woke up to a headline that made my stomach drop. Crypto executive found dead in apparent accident. It was one of the board members whose initials I'd seen in the transaction logs. No foul play suspected, they said. But I knew better. He was one of the inner circle and he'd just been erased. While the news was spreading, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it ring out, but a voicemail popped up. I played it on speaker, heart pounding. The voice was shaky but familiar. "You don't know me, but I know you've been looking for Sasha. She's not gone. But if you want to stay breathing, you need to stop looking." Click. No name, no number, no second message. I couldn't stop shaking. I replayed it 3 times. Was it a trap, or was she actually alive? If Sasha had faked her disappearance, maybe she was still fighting this from the shadows? But why warn me now? Why show up at this point, unless something was about to happen? I started scanning the files again more closely. That's when I found something I missed before a line of code. Sasha had left behind in the metadata, fall point triggers failover. It meant something, maybe a kill switch or a leak contingency. Whatever it was, it sounded like she had planned for the system to collapse if anyone got too close. And then I noticed it. The same server I'd mirrored the one I thought I sent. To the DOJ, it was still pinging a signal. Not from Washington, from somewhere else entirely. A private server, offshore. Still active, I hadn't exposed everything. I'd only scratched the surface. And now the real server, the one no one was supposed to know about, had just gone live again. I traced the offshore ping to an island data center registered under a fake renewable energy company. The metadata trail was faint. But still there just enough to show the server had gone live for 6 minutes before going dark again. Someone had rebooted it, probably to check what I had copied. And that meant someone knew exactly what I had taken and what I had missed. I knew I couldn't do this alone anymore. So I reached out to a contact I barely trusted, Jake, a former cybersecurity analyst who had vanished from the public eye after blowing the whistle on a defense contract years ago. We met at a quiet cafe near the outskirts of town. I gave him a copy of everything. The logs, the wallet trail, even Sasha's encrypted files. He didn't say much at first, just kept shaking his head as he scrolled through the evidence. "This isn't just money laundering," he finally said. "This is systemic, coordinated, and someone up top signed off on it." Together, we launched a silent leak through a decentralized whistleblower platform. Within 48 hours, major journalists were contacting us anonymously, cross-verifying details. The DOJ finally reached out too, but not how I expected. They didn't deny getting my first package. In fact, they confirmed it and admitted it had been locked under ongoing classified review. That's when I realized the truth. Someone inside was stalling the investigation, maybe even protecting it. But the twist came late one night when a secure message flashed. On my screen from Sasha, it was real this time. No warning, no threat, just 4 words. "You were the plan." I stared at the message, heart pounding. It hit me hard. All this time, I thought I was exposing them on my own terms. But Sasha, she had been watching, guiding things from the shadows, the files, the clues. Even that voicemail, it was all part of a larger chain reaction she'd started long before I got fired. I wasn't the whistleblower. I was the trigger, and whatever happens next had already been set in motion.